back on the map. I'm telling y'all straight up. A lot of people have it. It's our time.
You see where it started from, now you see where it's at.
Little kids ain't even 5 and 6 years old. They done seen murders right there on the spot. You know, I seen a murder at 4 years old right here on this very porch.
I couldn't believe that my brother was dead. Everything stopped, man. My world was crushed. It just ripped something out my heart, man.
Oh, man, if Kevin would have been in No Limit, it would have been a different No Limit. You know what I'm saying? Real tough, because Kevin was like P's other brain.
We all know Master P made history in the entertainment game, founding No Limit Records and releasing hit after hit. The label went on to sell over 100 million records, locking in its legacy in hip-hop history.
I owned the record store, that's true. People came in and brought my music. I'm a hustler, dog. I ain't about to give you nothing.
But before all the success, Master P's rise to the top was packed with drama. Let's get into it. Master P was born in 1970, right in the heart of New Orleans, Louisiana. He came up in the city's gritty 3rd Ward, specifically the infamous Calliope Projects, one of the roughest and most dangerous housing projects in the entire country.
But this is still one of the most violent places in one of the most violent cities in the country. Calliope Projects, 3rd Ward.
Life out there wasn't just tough, it was downright traumatic. P was barely 4 or 5 years old when he got his first real taste of how raw the streets could be. He watched a man get murdered right outside his window.
I done seen people get held up at gunpoint. You know, I done ran for my life trying to dodge a drive-by. You gotta be from there to understand. Little kids ain't even 5 and 6 years old. They done seen murders right there on the spot. You know, I seen a murder at 4 years old right here on this very...
Things at home weren't much easier. When his parents split up during his younger years, it left the family divided. Master P and his brother Kevin stayed with their father, while the rest of his siblings went with their mother. It wasn't a stable setup either. They'd often bounce between their grandparents' place and their mother's house, sometimes day to day. That kind of back and forth upbringing made it hard to find any real sense of consistency or comfort. Poverty was the norm. And for young Percy Miller, it meant growing up in a packed house, surrounded by siblings, cousins, and other family members, but never having enough to go around. There were times when the fridge stayed empty. And Master P has openly said he often felt like he was always hungry. That constant struggle left a mark, mentally, emotionally, and physically. But if there was one escape for P, it was basketball. He had skills, real ones, enough to get noticed and land himself an athletic scholarship to the University of Houston. That scholarship felt like a ticket out, the chance to change his life, lift his family out of the cycle of poverty, and maybe even make it to the pros. For a kid from the Calliope, that dream was everything.
Percy Miller,
otherwise known as,
you said, Master P. Side, and he's got it there.
Unfortunately, things didn't go according to plan. During his first year, P suffered a torn ACL, a devastating injury for any athlete, especially one with so much riding on the game. Just like that, the dream was snatched from his hands. He had to leave school and return to Calliope. Back to square one. With basketball no longer an option and bills piling up, P tried his hand at selling phones. But that hustle wasn't bringing in enough. So, like many others around him, he turned to the streets and started dealing drugs to get by. It wasn't what he wanted long term, but it felt like the only option at the time. Eventually, his grandmother caught wind of what he was doing. She wasn't having it. She started warning him, encouraging him to find a different path. At first, he brushed it off, stuck in survival mode. But everything changed when he had his first son. Becoming a father shifted his entire perspective. He realized he couldn't raise his child in the same kind of chaos he grew up in. That was the wake-up call he needed. So with his wife and son in tow, Master P packed up and left New Orleans. He moved out west to Richmond, California, looking for a fresh start, far away from the street life. One random day while driving down the street in Richmond, Master P noticed something that stopped him in his tracks. A long line of people wrapped around the block, all trying to get into a local record store. That moment sparked something in him. If this many people were lining up for music, why couldn't he tap into that? Why not get in the game himself? Luckily, around that time, P had just received a $10,000 settlement from a malpractice lawsuit related to his grandfather's passing. Now, most people in his position might have spent that money trying to live large for a while, but not Master P. He took that money and flipped it into an opportunity. He used it to open up his very own record store, No Limit Records. Not the label yet, just the store. It was his first real business move. But like any startup, it wasn't all smooth sailing. In fact, in the beginning, business was so slow that P and his family had to make some real sacrifices just to keep things afloat. Things got so tight that he actually moved his entire family into the store. They lived in the back while he tried to keep the business alive out front. Still, P never let the struggle stop him. Instead of giving up, he studied the market. He started watching what customers wanted, what was missing from other stores, and what could set him apart. And then it hit him. Gangster rap was popping off, but very few stores were actually selling it, while other stores were busy censoring or playing it safe. P saw an opening. He stocked his shelves with the raw, gritty street music people were hungry for, and just like that, the game changed. No Limit Records, the little record shop in Richmond, quickly became the spot. If you wanted the hottest gangster rap tapes, that's where you went. The store became a local hub, and eventually the headquarters of what would soon become one of the most iconic indie labels in hip-hop. While running the store and soaking in the street energy, P started noticing a pattern in the music. Rappers weren't just making noise, they were telling their stories. Stories about struggle, pain, hustle, and survival. Stories not too different from his own. That's when it hit him. Why not tell his story? So Master P decided to take a shot at the mic. He linked up with some local producers and started putting together tracks. Of course, just like his store, the music grind didn't pay off overnight. His early songs didn't take off instantly, and he didn't blow up right away. But then, tragedy struck, something that would change him forever. On the morning of September 14th, 1990, his brother Kevin Miller, just 22 years old at the time, was riding around New Orleans with two of his friends. It was supposed to be just another regular day. Nobody knows exactly where they were headed or what the vibe was when they first set out, but somewhere along the drive, things took a dark turn. A heated argument broke out inside the car. In an instant, the so-called friend sitting in the back seat pulled out a gun and opened fire. Multiple shots rang out, striking Kevin in the head and back.
They said that he had been driving with two other men who were in the car. They'd gotten into some sort of argument. Ultimately, he was shot several times in the back.
But what happened next was just as cold. They dumped Kevin's body like trash along the side of the road near an I-10 exit in St. John the Baptist Parish, a lonely stretch of highway that barely saw traffic. They left him there, hoping to cover up what they had done.
They dumped his body on the side of the road. Like, how do you do that to him?
Days passed before his family got the call that would shatter their world. For Master P, losing his brother cracked something deep inside him, but instead of letting the pain crush him, he flipped it into purpose. It was a wake-up call like no other. Years later, reflecting on that dark time, P said, "When my brother got hit, I had to change my life. I had to do something different to get my family out of the ghetto."
That's something that either drive you crazy or make you change your life. You know, and me, it made me change my life.
Kevin's death became a pivotal turning point. That tragedy lit a fire in Master P's soul. So he went all in. That loss bled into his music too. In his 1995 album 99 Ways to Die, the song When They Gone stood out as a personal tribute to Kevin. The line, "Said he never die, but now he's 6 feet deep with the tombstone. Oh my God, my brother's gone, and I don't even effing think I can go on," was a cry from the soul. But grief didn't paralyze Master P, it propelled him. Kevin's death became the emotional fuel behind his grind. He wanted to build something powerful, something permanent. That's how the No Limit movement started gaining serious momentum. P and his No Limit soldiers came in with a different kind of hustle. He started traveling, hitting up different cities, networking, doing shows, and spreading the word. He gave out tapes, shirts, and merchandise for free just to get his brand out there. Along the way, he started rubbing shoulders with some heavy hitters in the industry. Through these connections, he realized he needed more than just street smarts. He needed business skills. So he enrolled at Merritt Junior College to study business administration. He also started bringing in partners who knew how to handle business, people who could help scale what he was doing beyond just the neighborhood. Then came the breakthrough. When Master P dropped The Ghetto's Trying to Kill Me, it made serious waves. He followed it up with 99 Ways to Die, which sold over 250,000 copies, a massive feat for an independent artist at the time. But the real game changer came when he released Ice Cream Man, backed by his newly formed in-house production team, Beats by the Pound. That album climbed the charts and eventually hit number 3 on Billboard.
He wore the white suit and everybody liked him. I mean, nobody had nothing bad to say about Ice Cream Man, and people spent money with him.
With success building ruling, P made the decision to move No Limit Records back to New Orleans. It was a full circle moment, bringing everything he had built in California back home to the city that raised him. And with the release of Ghetto D, he solidified his place in hip-hop history. The single Make 'Em Say went triple platinum and became a cultural anthem, blasting from every corner of the country. But he didn't stop there. With his business mindset sharper than ever, Master P began working with a range of hungry, talented artists and helped turn out the kind of music fans couldn't get enough of. He understood packaging, branding, and marketing in a way few artists at the time did. Every No Limit album looked like part of the same army: flashy covers, bold fonts, and that signature No Limit tank logo. P kept the releases coming at a wild pace. Soon, No Limit had built one of the most dominant dynasties in hip-hop, and P's name was everywhere. By the late 90s, he was one of the biggest names in entertainment. Forbes even listed him as one of the top 10 highest-grossing entertainers at the time. And as fate would have it, Master P didn't just become a rapper, he became a mogul. He turned his pain into power, his hustle into history, and in doing so, he built one of the most legendary hip-hop empires of all time, No Limit Forever. But of course, reaching the top of the music game doesn't come without its fair share of drama, and one of the most talked about and infamous beefs that Master P and No Limit ever found themselves in was the long-standing tension between them and Birdman's Cash Money Records. One of the earliest sparks came from a business deal gone wrong, or blocked, depending on who you ask. In the mid-90s, when both No Limit and Cash Money were hunting for major distribution deals to take their operations to the next level, Master P landed first with that historic Priority Records deal. Naturally, Birdman and Slim tried to follow the same path. They met with Priority executives, hoping to secure a deal for Cash Money. But according to Birdman, that meeting got cut short quick. Why? Because Master P stepped in and threatened to walk if Priority even thought about signing his hometown rivals. Birdman would later say, "They said because Master P said, if we sign y'all, he's leaving." And since No Limit was Priority's golden goose at the time, they backed off.
I went to Priority. They fly us to California. Man, Slim would come in there and said, "Man, I'm sorry, we can't do the deal." He said, because Master P said, if we sign y'all, he leaving.
Eventually, Birdman took Cash Money elsewhere, landing that monster $30 million deal with Universal. But it's safe to say he never forgot how that first attempt played out. To many fans, that whole situation explains a lot of the quiet tension between the two camps. It felt like Master P was actively protecting his territory, making sure Cash Money couldn't eat off the same plate. And that wasn't the only time P seemed to move in response to Cash Money's momentum. In 2000, Master P dropped a straight-to-video action movie called Hot Boys. Now, the movie had nothing to do with Birdman's group, the Hot Boys, but to fans, the name wasn't random. The Hot Boys were peaking at that point, and that title felt like a slick play on their fame. Was it a diss? Not directly, but it was enough to raise eyebrows. A lot of people took it as a low-key jab, or at the very least, a smart and slightly petty attempt to ride the wave Cash Money had created. Then there was the launch of the 504 Boys, another Master P move that didn't go unnoticed. The group name referenced New Orleans area code, 504. And felt a lot like No Limit's answer to the Hot Boys. Again, it wasn't an outright shot, but the timing and branding felt very deliberate. Another layer to the quiet war between Master P and Birdman was the rumor that, behind closed doors, P was trying to poach some of Cash Money's most promising talent. Turk later came out and said that back in the late 90s, there were whispers that Master P tried to sign both him and a young Lil Wayne to No Limit.
Now, you had mentioned that there was that Wayne was considering signing to No Limit.
Yeah, we both consider signing to No Limit.
Still, despite all these subtle shots and behind-the-scenes shade, both men managed to keep it classy in public. Neither of them ever went on a full-blown diss campaign. You wouldn't catch Birdman bashing P in interviews, and P never made it his mission to air out Birdman's business either. They might not have liked each other, but there was a mutual respect.
Even though we just don't get on together, we don't get on. Like, I don't fake it with people. If I don't know you, I ain't hang out with you. Everywhere I got out, shout out to Cash Money, man, for doing what they gotta do. I respect that they come from my hood. I wanna see them win. I wanna see them eat.
But while the bosses kept things somewhat professional, the streets told a different story. The real tension went way deeper, right down to the neighborhoods these two camps came from. Master P came up out of the Calliope projects, while Birdman and the Cash Money family were rooted in the Magnolia projects. And if you know anything about New Orleans, you know these were war zones at times, with decades of beef and street history between them. By the late 90s, as both No Limit and Cash Money were blowing up, the animosity between Calliope and Magnolia was also heating up. According to people who lived through it, that tension spilled out of the streets and into the hip-hop world. One fan who lived in NOLA at the time put it plainly: there was beef between Magnolia and Calliope. A lot of bodies were dropped, and sadly, that wasn't just talk. The violence was real. People affiliated with both sides, either directly or indirectly, lost their lives. One name that always comes up when you talk about the street side of Cash Money is Terrence "Gangsta" Williams, Birdman's half-brother. Terrence wasn't just a regular dude from the Magnolia. He was a notorious figure in New Orleans, rumored to be tied to dozens of murders, and a central figure in the original Hot Boys, the street crew, not just the rap group. He was deeply entrenched in the streets while Birdman and Slim were building Cash Money into a machine. And it's here that things get really dark. In the late 90s, Master P's cousin Randall Watts was murdered in New Orleans. The streets started buzzing, pointing fingers at none other than Terrence "Gangsta" Williams. People in P's circle reportedly believed Terrence had something to do with Randall's death, and that lit a serious fire. According to Terrence himself, word on the street was that Master P was so convinced of his involvement that he allegedly put a bounty on his head. At first, the number floated around was $15,000, but over time, the rumor grew, and people started saying there was as much as $100,000 being offered for Terrence's life.
This ain't never vibe, bro.
Wow.
You hear me? We ain't
To this
never
day?
had no beef, ain't nobody dead, you hear me? But we just didn't never vibe. Don't get me wrong, I got the utmost respect for, he from my same city, so then came up and he did some still trying to do. He put out 35 albums in 1 year.
Terrence has always denied having anything to do with Randall's murder. In a 2024 interview, he said it was all a misunderstanding. He even claimed he had a brief conversation with one of P's family members who confirmed that Master P was out for retribution. Fast forward to more recent years, and that underlying tension still occasionally bubbles to the surface. Take what happened in 2022, for example. During a Hot Boys reunion show in New Orleans, Master P showed up on stage as a surprise guest. The appearance was apparently arranged by the city's mayor as a way to celebrate New Orleans' hip-hop legacy, but according to Terrence "Gangsta" Williams, Birdman wasn't thrilled about it. In fact, he took it as a subtle diss. From his point of view, it looked like the city was giving P a moment on his turf at his cruise event, despite their long and complicated history.
And you said that Birdman was actually upset about it because Master P and Cash Money really didn't get along.
It might have seemed like a small gesture on the surface, but for Birdman, it felt like the city was rubbing salt in old wounds. It served as a reminder that New Orleans loves both No Limit and Cash Money, whether Birdman is cool with that or not. That one appearance stirred up enough noise that it made headlines again in 2024, proving that this whole dynamic between P and Birdman still hits a nerve.